Well, good afternoon to everyone on the east coast of Australia, and good morning to our friends in the west. Thank you everyone for joining us on this webinar for our support groups. Our CEO Jeff Dunn was very keen to catch up with everyone at the end of the year. And what a year it's been. It's been a challenge for all of us, but I have to say there's been some positives out of it as well. I'm just amazed at how the support groups have banded together. They've kept in touch with each other. They've learned how to use Zoom and webinars, as we all have. And the very important thing is that people who've needed support through their prostate cancer journey have been able to get that support. None of us have dropped the ball. We've all worked together, and it's been tougher for some. It's been very difficult in Victoria, and it's great that Debra's on this webinar with us today, and she'll have a few things to say as well during the hour. So a little bit of housekeeping for everyone. It's very much a presentation from us. We're keen to hear from you, and if you can put some questions in the Q&A section down the bottom. If you use your mouse on the screen and you'll see the Q&A there, we'll try and monitor those, and we'll get to as many as we can, as quickly as we can during the presentation. But if we miss any, or there's anything you want to follow up with us, please get in touch with myself or Deb, and we'll follow up. But look, I really just want to say thank you so much to everyone for their support to me. I've been 12 months almost in this job, took over, and then COVID came around, so it's been a challenge for trying to keep in touch with everyone as well. And it's fantastic that Jeff's just been a wonderful leader for all of us, and we're so lucky to have him on board. And I'd like to hand over to Jeff Dunn, our CEO, now for his presentation. Away you go, Jeff.
Hey, thank you, Jim, and good afternoon, good morning, everyone out there. It's terrific to be able to share this time with you. And of course, if the world was like it was this time last year, we'd be doing this face-to-face in meetings around the country. Who could forget? You know, Deb and I toured Australia last year and caught up with people, and it was a great time. It was good to connect, and we learned a lot, and we changed things. In fact, one of the big changes was we brought Jim Lloyd on, which I think in hindsight was a terrific decision. Don't you think, Jim? It's good to be with you all once again. This is a webinar. As Jim said, if you've got any queries, go down to the Q&A section at the bottom. Depending how we go today, if we can't answer all your questions, Deb and Jim will certainly follow up with those, because we'll certainly keep a record. I thought today that what I do is just sort of go through a bit of a presentation on, where we are, how things have been, just talk a bit about, some of the things we've done throughout the year, and think a little bit about perhaps what's in store for us. And then, as we said, we'll certainly look forward to taking any questions you might have. I'm doing this from Sydney, by the way. Just last week I was in Queensland, which was nice. It's the first time I've crossed a border, I think, for a long, long time. It was nice to catch up with people up there. So now I'm going to try to manage technology here and share a screen. So let me just see if I can do this. And I'm just checking if everyone can see that. So I'm assuming Jim and Deb, but is that okay? Is that screen up there now?
Yep, it's all good.
Thanks. One of the problems with webinars is it's hard to get feedback. So anyway, let's get started. I thought, this first screen, look, essentially does two things. It gives a snapshot about prostate cancer in Australia, some quick facts over there on the right. And on the left, it talks about our strategic priorities and our vision. And from a PCFA point of view, our vision is a future where no man dies of prostate cancer, and Australian men and their families get the support they need. And you'll see the focus is in three areas: be the leading charity, protect the health of existing and future generations of Australian men, and improve the quality of life for men diagnosed with cancer. And you can see on the right-hand side that, there's still a job to do. It's the most common cancer diagnosed in men in this country. We figure there's about 220,000 men around the country living with this disease. there's good news, as we've spoken about before. The survival rates in Australia are amongst the highest in the world. We've got a problem with our regional areas in the sense that we've got to do better at removing the differential, and we're better than we ever been, have ever been at detecting the cancer early. So there's still a lot of work for us to do, but rest assured, we're committed to delivering on that vision through that focus, working in collaboration within each and every one of you. So we've got some combined strength, and there's a thank you. So we put this out there. Thank you to you. We've got around 150 prostate cancer support groups leading our work in the community. That number goes up and down a little. You know, in the last 5 years, sometimes we get asked about how much we spent on research. We spent 31 million in the last 5 years. It's fantastic. And some of that money's gone to groundbreaking clinical trials. And you will have remembered the terms. You've heard the terms pro-PSMA and the therapy trials. World leading, exciting outcomes. And we here have been funding them. We've got close to 70 prostate cancer specialist nurses located Australia-wide now. We've been rolling out, you know, additional nurses this year in the midst of COVID, with support from the Commonwealth, their funding promise before the last election, and that's going exceptionally smooth. We're delighted with that. We committed to you that we would set up a telephone nursing service, a telenursing service, to make sure that every man in this country, no matter where they are, can get access to this life-changing service. Because not everyone can be physically or geographically close to one of our hospital-based nurses. So we've actually started that. We've appointed Bernie Riley. He's in the Sydney office now, doing the legwork to set this service up for a launch early next year. Very exciting. And our online community, we transitioned that. I think some of you will remember, you know, we had to transition the platform. It used to be on an old computer-based platform. We transitioned to a new one earlier this year, and it's going from strength to strength. We're delighted with that, and we've got even more men now and partners on our online community. Terrific work. Jim mentioned in his introduction that 2020 was different. Who would have thought 12 months ago that this would be such a common theme around the country? There's a snapshot of a Zoom support group meeting. And I don't know, someone must have been Deb. Someone must have been telling a good joke, because Deb looked pretty happy, and so does everyone else. But it's actually been part of the landscape, hasn't it? I think, again, Jim mentioned earlier that we've all learned about Zoom and how to keep and how to connect. And, you know, with a challenging year like we've had, it's never been more important. And well done, I think, to all of you, support group network around the country, for embracing technologies to make sure we work. This is a lovely photograph. Again, it's Deb, and it's with Wolfgang. And Wolfgang is receiving his Max Gardner certificate. And I think we've sent out in notes, and just to make sure, by way of reminder, Wolfgang, Kerry White and Elizabeth Allen were our Max Gardner Award winners for last year, each one of them making a significant and enduring contribution, above and beyond contribution, and thank you for that. And a reminder that the applications for this round of Max Gardner Awards are in play right now. So please feel free. You can visit our website if you've missed the emails, but visit our website. And if you think there's someone that deserves to be nominated, please do nominate them. There's Wolfgang. There's Elizabeth, working hard. From Dubbo, we're looking forward to joining Elizabeth in Dubbo next year for the national conference, which also marks our 25th anniversary. So Elizabeth wears a lot of hats in Dubbo, as you can see. And she's a terrific supporter. And I was talking to her on the phone just the other day. And then here's a photograph. This was only just last week, I think, or maybe the week before. And that's Tyre Power, a sponsor of ours. And that's Kerry White, the third of our Max Gardner Award winners, and myself with the local Tyre Power representative in Inverell Tyre Power. We had a great morning, caught up, we presented them with a certificate. I drove the certificate up. If you look closely, you could actually see I broke the glass. Can you see the frame? I actually broke the glass. accident, so we've got to replace the glass. But it's great to catch up with Kerry. I was able to attend the Inverell support group meeting, which was fantastic. We had a terrific night, and then we also went and visited Tyre Power and connected with, once again, a long-standing and highly valued supporter of PCFA. So we had a great time there. And look, I just thought I'd show you this. Is Linton, I think, Linton, you're on the call, aren't you? Look, this is Linton from Barnsdale. You know, Linton was a fantastic contributor to the Long Run, which is an event. I'll talk a bit about that later on. We had a few months back to raise funds and awareness for us, and it went exceptionally well. Linton did a great job. But also, Linton's been our public face recently in our awareness campaign about family history, because Linton's one of 4 brothers who have all been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and now it's starting to appear in the nephews. So a shout out to you, Linton. Thank you, my friend. And again, hello to everyone out there in Bairnsdale and surrounds. And of course, things have been happening in Sydney. This is just a bit of around the country. This is the Westmead group. And, you know, that's actually a presentation by our own Jim Lloyd, of course, with the gang at Westmead to Colleen, who was a founding member of that group, or who actually helped found that group, an RN there, and she's retired after many, many years of dedicated service. So it was lovely to see her, and congratulations. Here's the gang from Coffs Harbour doing what they do best there, all looking bright and happy, and a terrific meeting. It just shows that things keep continuing. Here's John David holding an outdoor group. This is a COVID safe group up there on Central Coast, and well done. You know, it shows again our support group people looking for new and better ways to keep in touch and to connect, irrespective of the circumstances. Here's some of the gang in orange. It's nice to see people meeting again. And here's one of our Perth groups, the Southsiders, which is, again, people coming together, spreading awareness around the country, West Coast, East Coast, small communities, large ones. We certainly couldn't do it without you. Some exercise stuff. We know how important exercise is. Good to see the fellows gathering and sort of walking the talk when we come to exercise as protective when it comes to prostate cancer. And here's some other groups that have been going on around the country. Nice to see people gathering. Again, this is a hybrid group. Obviously some Zoom and some face-to-face. There's Don Piero. I always love showing photographs of, you know, the group down there with Don, because he tries to convince us that that's coffee or tea in those mugs, but we know down in the Barossa it's probably something else entirely. And here's a recent group, Early Beach, who have been doing a great job, hit the ground running, and good on you, and thank you for your work up there in North Queensland. Around the country, our support groups are making a difference. And so are our prostate cancer specialist nurses. You know, here's Joe Hiscock from Toowoomba, and some of you know Ruby from Townsville. And here are some nurses, you know, that we've got working in the Adelaide area. And they're just terrific. Kerry and Sophie and others making a big difference in people's lives. We are certainly moving around the country. Another area of critical importance for us is research. I mentioned before, you know, that over the last 5 years, we spent over 31 million in research activities. Just recently, in fact, a month or so ago, we launched $600,000 research funding for young investigator grants. They're particularly important for us because we want to get young investigators interested in work in prostate cancer. You know, we want to get the best and the brightest and set them on a career path working with us for prostate cancer research. So this has gone out. We've had, well, I suppose I can share, we've had between 15 and 20 applications. We figure we can give out around 4 grants. Our research advisory committee has been meeting and we'll make some decisions before the end of the week. We have a board meeting before the end of the week. We'll make some decisions and make some awards and publicise these grants in time for Christmas. So at least some of our young investigators will feel excited about next year in regards to research funding. And you'll see that there were 3 areas we're looking at. One's about using biological samples for men with prostate cancer to better predict progression. The second one's about looking at less invasive prostate cancer diagnosis to show promise. So how can we actually, diagnose this disease earlier and more easily. And the third area is looking at survivorship stuff, that understand the impact of prostate cancer on men's lives. So we're delighted to be able to do this, and we're looking forward to making these announcements on your behalf collectively before the end of the year. So here. And look, just to show you, I do not intend to go through all of these line by line, but these are the sorts of things, when we talk about the last 5 years, the sort of areas that our research grant money has been going into. And some of them are highly promising. The therapy is about new ways of treating, which has been published in leading journals around the country. And we're pushing hard to make sure that that becomes treatment over time. There's some wonderful things going on. And we're pleased that we're able to continue our support for research, and we'll spend more money next year. And of course, we're able to do that because of the strong financial support we garner from the community. I thought I'd just share with you again and remind about Blue Sky Vision. This has been circulated. It's on our website. You will have received this from us. It's about our vision and our focus statements, about our mission. And through your work, your group, and everyone that attends it or participates in it or supports it is contributing to our mission. And if we're going to do something about prostate cancer, we need to stick together on this. And you'll see there are 3 areas about research, awareness, and support. I don't intend to go through it in detail. We've sent it out previously, but please do remember that you, through your very work and activities, are tied into this. And importantly, over on the left, where you see our origins, you'll see it says we were formed nearly 25 years ago. Well, next year marks our 25th anniversary, so we're going to have to update that, I assure you, because when you look at this slide, you see that the work continues. This is about predicting cancer prevalence by 2040. And if you look down the bottom, you'll see that by 2040, the estimates are that there'll be 372,000 Australian men who had been diagnosed and treated for cancer living with that disease in 2040. And when you think about the fact that right now, the estimated prevalence in this country is 220,000, that is a massive increase. So there's a job for us to do, certainly in terms of making sure we detect this disease as early as possible so we can treat it as effectively as we can. We can make choices about how best to treat it. And secondly, making sure we continue the research to ensure that outcomes, survival rates continue to improve. They're 95% now, but we want them at 100%. We're working hard to that. And furthermore, that we make sure that because more people are being diagnosed with this cancer and more people are surviving it, there are many, many more people living longer with this disease. And as you know, it's a catch cry for us now. While we want every man to live longer after a diagnosis of prostate cancer, we also want them to live well. And our survivorship work is uppermost for us. So it's about the communication, and we've been working hard to improve and magnify our opportunities to communicate. And you'll have seen Blue Sky News, which is just an example. We've been doing lots more things to try and get our message out there, raise awareness, raise funds, encourage communication, discussion, understanding about prostate cancer, try and make sure that from a public health perspective, we've got this disease covered around the country. And to do that, we've started new activities and new campaigns like the Long Run, which actually, helps us raise funds, which is critical. If we want to continue to fund research and develop resources, provide programs and services, like the telenursing service, like some of our prostate cancer specialist nurses that are based around the country, because not all of them are government funded. Some of them we fund with your support, with the community support. Some of them we fund as well. We need fundraising activities like the Long Run. So it raised 1.5 million, almost 1.6, but I tell you what, didn't it generate a lot of discussion and a lot of awareness? And it brought more people to PCFA. There are many more Australians know about us now than before the Long Run. And to each and every one of you who participated, thank you. We're already looking forward to next week's activities, next year's activity, I say, with the learnings. And there's some figures and statistics about the Long Run, but it was a very successful opportunity. And probably most important stat on all that, aside from the money, is the third dot point from the bottom. You know, there were 750,000 website views, and 500,000 of those were unique. We're individuals, we're new ones. It's fantastic. Wonderful stuff. And again, thank you for helping to make it a success. And of course, during November, you know, we kick-started the Big Aussie Barbie. We've given a bit of a freshen up, and it's out there. You know, all the numbers and the stats are still coming in, but it's a terrific activity, and we're really pleased that we got out there. We've also been pushing out. Some of you were very much involved in this development with our prostate cancer survivorship guidelines. Many of you were involved in workshops we held around the country with reference groups and surveys and the like. We've sent stuff out about this, and I don't want to dwell on it particularly, but just suffice it to say that when we talk about, you know, living well after prostate cancer, PCFA's work, your work, in terms of providing support to men and their partners and families in the community, your work is critical to ensuring that we improve quality of life and that survivorship experience. There's a couple of shots of the thing, and there's a copy of the original article in a research journal which talks about it. I think it's important to understand that we're seeking sponsorship, endorsements of this framework, and I can tell you that already we've got a whole range of endorsing organisations, including the Cancer Council and others, Cancer Voices Australia, and just during the week, this week gone, USANS have sent in their endorsement. So USANS, Urological Society of Australia and New Zealand, that's all the surgeons, they've also endorsed now this framework for survivorship. So we're delighted with that, and we are working with health services, with clinicians, with professional organisations, and with governments, policymakers, about the importance of prostate cancer survivorship and how we can work to improve that experience for men and their families. That remains a priority for us. In addition to that, we've been doing a whole range of things. You can see we've already discussed the prostate cancer specialist nursing. Some other things, we've got new prostate cancer specialist telenursing service. I mentioned Bernie started. We have a support group network we're meeting with now. Our online community and member forums are going better and better, and there's more and more joining. Mates Connect, we're piloting a peer support program, and to our West Australian colleagues, thank you for this, and thank you to our sponsors out there, but we're piloting Mates Connect in WA, where we train, you know, volunteers to provide one-on-one telephone-based peer support. Once the pilot's over and we're sure that we've got a product that's, you know, evidence-based, tried and tested, and it's going very well, we'll certainly roll that out nationally. We've been very active in developing additional webcast and research educational materials and blogs to make it easier for you to have stuff on your materials and to find things, and that's important for us. Pathfinder continues to be an important activity for us, where men who are interested and have an interest in becoming involved in research can do that, and we're actually pushing out more and more information. In fact, we're almost finished an overhaul of our prostate cancer resources. We're hoping for a formal launch of that early in the new year, and perhaps around February 4, which is World Cancer Day. And again, you know, these services and your outreach are critical for us. So if you look at that box there on the right-hand side, you know, when we check with the Australian community, 70% of men don't really know what the symptoms are. 75% don't really understand the test guidelines. After diagnosis is made, you know, 1 in 5 experience some level of distress. We need to deal with these things. There are things that we need to do, and with your help, we're going to get on and do that stuff. I mentioned about the developments for the prostate cancer specialist nursing service. So there's a bit of a sort of a snapshot of where they are. You know, we've got new and more nurses coming on between now and the end of the year. So most of them are on now. There's a few more to do. I don't think this map is entirely up to date, but it's getting closer. And happily, we've just had, you know, I've just signed a contract for a new nurse on the Gold Coast, which is terrific. And just recently, we had one start in Debra. I think I've got a slide of that. So the PCFA specialist nursing service is alive. It's doing well, and we're getting on with that. And here's a photograph. I mentioned that we had a front page. This was in the Daily Liberal, which is in Dubbo, and it talks about Dry July. Dry July is a supporter of ours, and Dry July, you can see that this talks about Dry July providing funds, and they are supporting the development of our telehealth, telenursing service from this year on. And we thank Dry July for it. So if you participate in Dry July through the PCFA link, you're actually helping us fund a telenursing service. And there, of course, is a photograph of Sally Sarah, who is our Director of Nursing, and she's terrific. And of course, we had a new prostate cancer specialist nurse start in Dubbo just recently, so we're delighted with that as well. So plenty happening with regard to the nursing stuff. The online community, I've mentioned it, but I think it's just interesting to see, you know, we're starting to push this out a little bit more. There are over 50,000 page views, you know, 6,000 unique visitors. So that's 6,000 individuals. These are not repeat views. There's 6,000 people who are members of that community. We're really encouraging people to start really get involved in the forum pages, but start to look more at the blogs and also look at the videos, because we've certainly got resources on that online community. And we'd encourage you, if you're looking at materials and resources to use or referral points, that you can certainly do that. Something we're excited about is the Stargate program, which we've sent around material, and it's been included in our Blue Sky newsletters. And again, we're launching this early next year. We've been completing this. This is Stargate is an acronym, kind of, for Prostate Cancer Regional Fact Sheets. And I know this is a matter which has been close to your hearts. So what it will essentially do, here's a snapshot of Toowoomba, just as a sneak preview, but once Stargate's launched, you'll be able to go to it from anywhere. Well, you just log onto the website, no matter where you are in Australia or the world for that matter, put in a postcode, and it'll give you details about prostate cancer in that postcode area, which is fantastic. So we'll provide information at your fingertips. It'll be terrific for support groups, of course, but I tell you what, it's going to be very useful for us in our awareness and advocacy work, particularly with governments and health systems and policymakers, pointing to areas, where there might be additional need or where we know we can do better and we need to make change. So Stargate is terrific for us. We're really looking forward to it. So keep an eye out for Stargate next year. Again, launching it sometime early in the new year. Exact dates we're not sure with. And of course, we'd certainly like, our, health leaders around the country to be a part of that, and certainly including the health minister. Who would have thought it's a year since we all caught up? I thought what we might do, you couldn't have a meeting like this now, I don't think. Certainly none of us are socially distanced. But I thought, as a way of just reminiscing and reflecting on the year that was, that we have a bit of a look back to the end of 2019 when we all gathered. This here is the Queensland group, I can tell, because there's a few notables in there. But why don't I just see if I can get this to play? And in doing so, can I take this opportunity to wish each and every one of you all the very best for the festive season. And can I thank you again on behalf of everyone at PCFA for the work that you do with support groups and in your communities, in promoting awareness, raising funds, supporting men and their partners and their families with prostate cancer. It's priceless. And it does make a difference. And for all that, let's just see how well we did sing a year ago.
So how do we do this? I've got some music to sort of start. Someone filming it? We're dreaming of a blue Christmas.
So let me stop sharing and let me say again, thank you for that, for being terrific support group leaders. Not all of you are great singers. I'm just saying that, but you were great with enthusiasm, which was terrific. So look, that brings me to the end of everything I wanted to say. What I might do is throw back to the inimitable Jim Lloyd to let him take us through this section, and then we'll probably get to some Q&A stuff as soon as we can. Thanks, everyone. Over to you, Jim.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff, and thanks for that pretty detailed summing of what we're doing this year. It's been a very busy year for us. There's still lots more to do, but we'll keep battling on. I'd just like to now introduce, and I actually don't need to introduce Deb to all of you. I think possibly every one of the 62 participants that's on this webinar today would have spoken to Deb at some stage or other. She's just a fantastic person who spends her life on the phone, talking to our support groups. You all know if you need any resources or any advice or any help at all, pick up the phone to Deb and she'll work it out for you. So Deb, hand over to you and have a few comments to make.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jeff. Hello, everybody. As you know, I'll keep this short so we've got plenty of time for questions and answers, but I just want to say a big, huge thank you to everybody. I'm huge supporters of you. You are so resilient. It has been a tough year, but you've all come through with flying colours. I do have a quick story about Melbourne, and in particular, Melbourne suburbs. Lockdown was really, really hard. But I would speak to people in WA and Queensland and I'd say, what are you doing? And they say, oh, we're going for a drive here or there. To Melburnians, we were living in a different world altogether, but we've done extremely well. And it's a testament to our resilience. And that's what I find in the group leaders. You are so resilient. You are so valued. I was cleaning out the cupboard the other day and I found a little brochure that said 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer by the age of 85. Then I came across another one that says 1 in 7. We're down to 1 in 6 by age 85. That's why your role is so important. And even though survivorship is going really well, doesn't matter. 1 in 6, we need you. Survivorship, men are living longer, we still need you. So when you're feeling down and think I'm tired of running a group, think of the lives you've touched, think of the lives you've saved. You're never going to know how many there was, but you can believe that it's many more than you would think. So from the bottom of our hearts, Jim and I love this part of our role. We love making the connections. We love making friendships with you, and we value you more than you will ever know. So God bless you. Have a lovely Christmas and keep bringing me up because that's what I enjoy. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much, Deb, and it's very kind words. And I know that both of us feel that it is just such an honour to have the role that we have and work with our support groups. Now, there is a series of questions here. We'll do our best to get through them. And Deb, I'll try and work my way through some of these. One of them from Bill says, how can support groups help researchers near them with consumer reps on project teams and voluntary recruits to study and trial? It's I guess not an easy question to answer, but Jeff, you're very involved in research. You might be able to make some comments on that.
Sure. And look, I'm just checking you can hear me? Yeah, okay. Yep. Sorry. Look, good question. The best way is to go through Pathfinder, to be honest. I think when researchers want to access, men with prostate cancer or partners or family members, we have that Pathfinder register where men who have been diagnosed with prostate cancer can signal their intention, their willingness to be involved in research work. so researchers tend to come to us and they make applications through Pathfinder process. So if you're interested, please do register for Pathfinder and get those around you who might be interested to register for Pathfinder as well.
Thanks very much, Jeff. The next question, we've partly answered this, but from Rob Phillip, is the prostate care nurse program run, funded and managed by PCFA, or is it predominantly managed by the state health services? Well, I do know that most of the nurses are Commonwealth funded and but are managed through the state health services. I don't know whether, Jeff, you want to make any other comments on that, but I think that's pretty much how it works.
Well, the majority are funded with Commonwealth funding, but not all of them.
Yeah.
The program is actually managed by PCFA. So PCFA is responsible for managing the program. And we have nurses that are in state health services, certainly. So, you know, local health districts, if in New South Wales, or hospital and health service boards, if you're in Queensland, and they have different names. But we also have many in private institutions, private settings and other health services. But the coordinating organisation is PCFA. In the end, we don't actually employ them out in the regions, but we certainly supervise their placement and provide their in-service and their training.
Yep. Thanks, Jeff. Again, from Rob, and this one we certainly pretty clear cut regarding testing guidelines. And he says, it's my understanding that PCFA are attempting to get funding to investigate if the current guidelines are appropriate and look at recommendations for changes in the guidelines, because I know there's always concerns of whether the PSA testing guidelines are up to date and everything. So I do know we're working hard on that one as well.
Well, that's true. And in fact, so the current guidelines were approved by the NH and MSC 5 years ago. And we have been actively chasing down the Commonwealth, looking for funding to review the guidelines, which we believe needs to happen. So we're in regular communication with the Commonwealth through the Health Department, looking for support for this. And, you know, we've received some warm replies. We haven't got it over the line yet, but we're continuing. And can I just say, look, one way or another, we're going to make sure it happens. I mean, it's an expensive thing to do guidelines. We prefer the Commonwealth paid for it. But in the end, we'll seek alternative sources if they don't. And while on those matters, Jim, I know I saw another question there about advocacy. So, you know, we're pursuing advocacy on a range of levels, certainly about PSA guidelines with the Commonwealth. We're certainly working again with the Commonwealth on access to new medicines and treatments. That's a critical thing for us. We certainly are working, trying to get some funding for awareness campaigns about prostate cancer in our community, given its prevalence and that level, I think we spoke about earlier, that level of uncertainty sometimes about what it is and how you check that. And at a state level, for example, we're also working on state basis, looking at how we get better access to treatment in state jurisdictions. And I know there's an election coming up in Perth at some time in the near future. And I can let you know that we're involved with that local board in Perth, looking at opportunities for advocacy on a state basis over there in advance of that election, which I think is in March, if I recall correctly, but forgive me if I've got that wrong. Thanks, Jim.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Question from Don Pirro. What would the prostate cancer support network look like post-COVID? Well, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about what the support networks are going to look like post-COVID, because I think it's re-energized us a lot, and in many ways made us value things more, and not just in support groups, but in life as well. I think our whole life's changed, and we value things a bit more. And the idea of being able to get together at different times, we value that more. But we can have the interaction of Zoom and the webinars. I do believe that we've linked our support groups much more closely because of COVID. A lot of times they were working in isolation and doing wonderful jobs, but not really knowing what other groups were doing. But, with the online community, and I will mention the little Facebook group that we've set up as well as part of the prostate cancer Facebook page, we've got 420 people on that, and many of those photos that Jeff, you used in your presentation were all on that Facebook group. So people are putting up their photos of what they're doing and how they're raising funds and how they're having open air meetings or having Zoom meetings. So there's a lot more interaction. So I'm actually really excited about a post-COVID support network. We've got new groups coming up. We've just started a group up in the Whitsundays up in northern Queensland. We've re-energised another group down on the south coast of New South Wales. We're talking with people up in Grafton to re-energise a group up there as well. So there's lots of good things happening, and we continue to do that. But yeah, really excited about a post-COVID support network.
Jim, I think you're right. The resilience of the groups has been terrific, and they've been looking at different ways, and all the groups have responded in different manners to suit their context and their community. And there's plenty of opportunities, I think, in that post-COVID environment. And to remember too, for PCFA, some of the questions about PCFA, we've had to adjust too from a COVID point of view. We've actually, in a comparative sense, not that there's any winners and losers out of this, but in a comparative sense, from a charitable point of view, we found COVID a challenge. Every charity has, but we've done well. And I think the important thing is that, even at the end of that, 6 to 9 months of COVID, we still went out with another 600,000 for research grants, and we were waiting to see how we fared, but we sent that money out there, and research remains critical to us. And Jim, if I might, because I see Don Pero. G'day, Don. Don's put in a question about the survivorship guidelines, and Don was, once again, it's no secret, was one of our reference group members on that. So yeah, there's a survivorship conference in Adelaide, and yes, we will be presenting it, Don. And happily, Bogda Koswara, Don, who you know very well, Bogda Koswara, for everyone out there who might not know her, is an oncologist who works in Adelaide, but she's nationally and internationally recognised and a great supporter of ours. She convenes a meeting in Adelaide on survivorship every year, and happily, Bogda thinks the survivorship framework we've pulled together is terrific. So she's a great advocate for that, and we'll be making sure that we're getting it out there. You mentioned about the 12 months, Don. Well, it took a few months to get the paper published. We need to get it published in a manuscript in a journal, and we did that. And then the last couple of months, we've been working on getting the endorsement signed off, because we want the likes of USANS and others endorsing this. And, COVID's impacted them too, so they haven't been having board meetings the way they have been and other stuff, so it slowed that process down a bit. But the framework is front and centre for us, and we'll be making sure that survivorship framework, the survivorship essential framework for men with prostate cancer is out and about wherever we can. And Jim, just while I'm on roll, I see a note there from Colin Beaton about getting guest speakers. If I just saw that come up, so I'll just throw to that. Yeah, it is a problem. But the first thing I'd say, if you want to talk about guest speakers, we've actually, people have said, can we get a list of people to phone and everything? We've checked with the specialists and doctors, and they're very happy to help. But what doesn't tend to work is if we put their name on a list and send it out, and then all of a sudden they get 20 or 30 requests in a month to talk to people. So here's what we reckon would work best. If you want a speaker for a meeting on a particular topic, or just generally, just please phone Deb. And if you want someone to talk about a medical aspect of research, phone Deb. And if you phone Deb, Deb can talk to Jim and myself and others. We find people for you. I think that's the best way. We'll make sure it's topical and in line with what you want. The other thing we're trying to do, and Jim might speak more to this, is develop resources and have them on our online community and on our website. Because I think it's important that, we've got resources you can call on at any one time. And you can show it to group if you can't actually get an individual speaker.
Yep.
So Jim, I think that's a real issue. If people want speakers, perhaps give Deb or yourself a call in the first instance, and we'll find someone. Yeah,
I did notice in that question as well, they were saying about the online webinars that are on there sometimes can be a bit long, like they're an hour or 45 minutes, we can look at that, and there might be some smaller, 10, 15 minute presentations that we can use that are particularly useful for support groups. And I'm happy to take that on board.
Yeah, that should be great. And if you've got suggestions, please do send them in. I mean, there's quite a library now on the online community and the website, but if there are particular topics, Chris McNamara, who works with us, he's based in Brisbane, he's pulling together a series of podcasts, and he's pulling together webinars and webcasts. So we've got that capacity now in ways that we hadn't had before. So if there are things and topics you need to address, please let us know.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. There's a question here from Dennis Green, which I think is a really good question, because as support group leaders and they work often with the Cancer Council and PCFA, and in some cases they say that the Cancer Council supports them and that they'd be lost without that. And I think it's important to understand that we have a good and a close relationship with the Cancer Council. Sometimes they have more resources for one particular area, or they have more funding, or that, and other times we can help and go hand in hand. And I know, Jeff, you've certainly had many years of experience with the Cancer Council, but it's certainly something we do work closely with each other.
Yeah, no, indeed we do. And Dennis, you're right. In some places, in some communities around Australia, the Cancer Council, is well placed to support. And I've got to say, it's not just with prostate, but it's also with breast cancer. It's with a whole range of these large cancers. But that does not diminish in any way us striving to do better at supporting groups directly. And so, Dennis, I expect what would be useful out of this is that we contact you directly and have a talk about how we might provide additional support for where you are, and actually learn from your experience. And maybe we can apply that nationally as well.
Yeah, no, that's very good comments, and I know Debra would be happy to talk to Dennis as well, so we can do that. And Bill has sent a series of questions in to us today, and Bill's very enthusiastic about what we're doing, and basically said, are we proposing actions to help the groups hit the ground with momentum in 2021? Well, Deb and I are definitely there to help and support and encourage and come up with some ideas and suggestions, and by having the interaction between all our groups, I think we're all spinning off everyone's ideas and suggestions, and it's just going to be so great this after Christmas, if things keep going the way they are, that we can actually get back to face-to-face events and a lot more barbecues and a lot more getting together. And I think that will re-energize a lot of our support groups as well. So I'm looking forward with great optimism for 2021. I'm really looking forward to actually catching up with a lot more groups. I've been able to catch up with a lot of groups in New South Wales this year, but obviously I wanted to catch up with a lot more around Australia, and we'll do our best to do that, in an effective way over the next 12 months as well.
Yes. And Jim, I see there's a couple of notes in there about what's our ambassador program.
Yeah.
And just to note, so look, as you know, we have undertaken, well, we got the message, and we know the ambassador program needs to be reviewed. We had hoped to review it this year, and I'll just be frank, we had hoped to do that this year, but COVID and other priorities got in the way, and so we've had to just put that off for a little. What I can tell you is that we have established a working group which includes existing, ambassadors plus some external stakeholders, and that's being chaired by Tony Walker. Now, Tony, some of you will know from, he's from Melbourne. He's the actual CEO of Victorian Ambulance Service, and he's going to be chairing that group. That group, the steering committee is seeing a meeting for the first time in January after we get back from Christmas, and you will hear from them very shortly after that. It's critical we do develop that outreach program, that community speaking, that community advocacy program. I can assure you it's a priority for 2021.
Fantastic, Jeff. I think we're almost through most of the questions at the moment. one thing I was going to raise and emphasise, of course, with 2021 is we do have our 25th anniversary. You mentioned it, Jeff, and really looking forward to having a conference in Dubbo with the rural New South Wales Rural Group and Elizabeth Allen and her team and our committee, and we're going to put a lot of effort and a lot of work into that to make it a very useful and effective conference. It was originally going to be early in the year, but of course COVID we couldn't plan with certainty. So it's now back to the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of October. So it's a little ways off yet, but certainly in the new year we'll be planning some events there, and I think everyone should try and maybe factor in put it in your diary and see if you can be part of what should be a pretty exciting time for us. It's going to be low key. I mean, it's something that's got to be important and cost effective and make sure that we're raising awareness and everything. But I don't think that we should not acknowledge 25 years, because it's 25 years of hard work by volunteers. As Jeff said, PCFA was born out of volunteers and we've got to acknowledge that.
See, come to Dubbo. Elizabeth and the gang. Elizabeth and the gang are working hard. It's going to be a terrific event. And, what better to acknowledge, 25 years of service to the community, getting out in the regions, where we've got a particular job to do in raising that awareness. So fantastic. Please come. I know there'll be updates from Elizabeth. And as Jim said, for a whole range of reasons, we've had to push it back to October for all the right reasons. And let's make it a nice event. See if you can get there.
Yeah, good. Well, we've done pretty well, actually. We've tried to get as many questions as we can through. There will be a couple that we probably had to get some more information on for people in some detailed stuff. And there's been a few that have been emailed through, which we've tried to answer off as well, Jeff. So I'm looking at the screen here. I can see that there's 61 participants that have taken the time to join us on this webinar. And I think that's pretty amazing considering everything else that's going on. And there's been a couple of comments come through with different people wishing us a Merry Christmas as well. So I think we're going pretty well with this technology. I don't know if Deb has any other final comments that you wanted to make, Deb, whilst we've still got a couple of minutes.
There was one thing I did want to say. I know a lot of the support group leaders are not fond of technology, but if I can just plead with you to check our website more often than you do, and the online community, because there's so much information that you are missing. It comes through constantly. And if you're looking at our website once every couple of weeks, there's so much information and so much resource that you are missing out on. So that's all I plead. I know it's tough sometimes. We live on our computer, so for us it's quite normal, but I know for many of you it's not easy to do. It's something that you don't really are not fond of, but there's plenty of information for you. So yeah, have a look at it more often. That's all.
Thanks, Deb. And actually, Jim, just another shout out. Remember that there's we've got a virtual community conversation which was going to be held in Perth. Maybe you were going to give this a bit of a plug, Jim, but now it's being held on Wednesday. It'll be virtual, but it's terrific, good program. So if you can register for that, please do. And that's certainly on the website.
Yep.
And then remember about the Max Gardner Awards. If there's someone out there who you think, has just gone above and beyond, please do acknowledge that by putting in a nomination.
Very good. Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments here, Jeff. There's some quite a few Christmas wishes from a lot of people on there. So I think, thank you to everyone for your kind comments about that. And obviously the Christmas season is fast upon us. And I just think everyone's excited about Christmas this year because, as I said, our way of life this year has just been so disjointed for many of us. And I think Christmas is almost a touch of normality. So I think it's going to be a great celebration with our friends and family. It's also a tough time because of all of us are missing people that were there in our lives, beforehand, all of us. So I had my mum last Christmas, I don't have her this Christmas, you know, and every one of us on this webinar will have somebody that was near and dear to them that may not be there. And the memories are the things that, you know, you cherish at times like Christmas, and you hold your family a little bit closer and dearer. So all of you do that. All right, I think we're pretty much done, aren't we? And
thank you, everyone. Merry Christmas, as you know, Jim's explained really well. We look forward to seeing you in a new year, hopefully a more settled year. Keep close.